What does perfectionism, or being a perfectionist, mean? Striving for perfection, peak level, exceptional quality, rigorous standards, excellence, the best. Her work is impeccable, an utter perfectionist. Or how about, sorry I'm being picky, but this has to be right, I'm a perfectionist. Do these sound familiar? I'm a perfectionist. A phrase so many of us resonate with and commonly wear proudly as though it were a badge of honor because that's a good thing, right? Being the best and having high standards. But what if I told you that perfectionism, that badge of honor you wear, isn't about having high standards at all? It's about fear. And fear doesn't create quality, it kills it. Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the channel, or if this is your first video, hi, welcome. I'm so glad you've decided to join me. If you don't know me, my name's Anna, I'm an opera singer and I'm also a trained life coach. This channel is a safe space and over here we talk all things coaching, all things personal growth and all things mental health, and we also discuss predatory behavior on social media done in the name of coaching. Today we're talking about perfectionism, which I am very passionate about and am no stranger to myself. It's something that affects so many of us in so many ways, so I really thought it was worth doing an episode on because I just truly believe that it doesn't have to. Today we'll be talking about what perfectionism is, why it can develop in us, how it negatively impacts us, and how to work through it. There's heaps of content already out there on perfectionism, lots of statistics and studies, and also lots of information on how it can be linked to very serious mental health issues. I'm not going to be talking about it from a clinical perspective because that's just outside my area of expertise. I'll be coming at it, as always, from a coaching perspective. If you feel, though, that there might be more to your experience of perfectionism, like, for example, depression or an anxiety disorder, then I strongly recommend seeking the support of a licensed therapist. Perfectionism, when I Googled it, came up with the refusal to accept any standard less than perfect. Okay, so then what is perfect? Entirely without fault or defect. So perfectionism makes us want ourselves to be free from faults, our work, our homes, our partners, our teams, our children, everything we do, and everything and everyone that we see as an extension of ourself. As I said earlier, there's a huge amount of content out there on perfectionism, so that means as a society, we've wised up to the concept and that it might not be so healthy. Nowadays, you might even be more likely to hear it given as a criticism rather than a compliment. You can never just be happy with something. You're such a perfectionist. But that doesn't seem to do much to stop the inner drive to perfect and not stop until every flaw, fault, or perceived defect is removed. We seem to understand the basic concept that we're all human and no one's perfect, but that doesn't really stop us from wanting or trying to be. So perfectionism can and will show up in just about any area of our lives, and chances are you're familiar with the feeling, even if you wouldn't exactly identify with the label of perfectionist. It's that white knuckle grip inducing feeling of needing to get it right. The panic of never having ticked enough boxes, never feeling satisfied, let alone joyful about what we've created, and instead just feeling wound up like a spring and forever running. The thing is, there's a big difference between running toward a dream and running away from fear. And perfectionism keeps us stuck on a perpetual hamster wheel of being chased by fear, exhausted, but never able to stop. Because you will never, ever outrun that fear. You will never attain a level of true perfection that satisfies you. No matter how perfect you make it, there will always be something you could have done better. Or more specifically, in the case of perfectionism, should have done better. And on you run. Perfectionism can develop in us for any number of reasons. It could be out of a fear of criticism, rejection, failure. So we perfect in an attempt to avoid those things. We push to make something so perfect that there's no room for any possible critique or any possibility that we could be rejected or fail. And then when those things happen anyway, because that's life, we convince ourselves it's because we didn't get it perfect enough and berate ourselves for not having gotten it right to begin with. It could be a coping mechanism for anxiety. We try to manage and control the circumstances around us and make them perfect so there's no room for unpleasant surprises. The possibility of change and unforeseen circumstances makes us so anxious that we micromanage in an attempt to control the narrative and control the chaos we perceive around us. Perhaps it's a false interpretation of a past experience. When I was younger, I heard a lot, near enough isn't good enough. And what that meant was, if you're going to do something, do it properly. Don't half-ass it. Give it your all. Give it everything you've got, and then be really proud of what you're putting out there. And I agree with this 100%. One of my values is to put my heart and soul into what I'm doing and never settle for mediocre. But here's what my monkey mind turned near enough isn't good enough into. It's not good enough unless it's perfect. Entirely different meaning. So what this really is here is a false interpretation of something from my past that has become a limiting belief that is now fueling my perfectionism. If you missed my video on limiting beliefs, it's linked somewhere here, so you can go back and watch it. It could also be a not enough limiting belief, which we also talked about in that video. So no matter how well we do, no matter how great it is, it's never good enough for us because we don't believe that we are ever enough. You get a great score on a test, but you're convinced it's because the test was too easy. You seek feedback and criticism willingly and can't accept when it's positive because you're convinced that they're just being nice or not telling you something and that there must have been something wrong with it. Not enough beliefs stem from the inner critic, which I'll cover in another video. And they fuel our perfectionism by forcing us to keep proving that we are enough and never feeling like we really arrive there. So these are a few of the ways and reasons that perfectionism can develop in us, and you might even resonate with more than one of these. Now let's talk about how perfectionism negatively impacts us, our behavior, our well-being, and our sense of self. The first and most prominent adverse effect of chronic perfectionism is burnout, which we know as a state of physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion caused by prolonged stress or overwork. Burnout is dangerous as hell, and it can affect our mental, physical, and spiritual health in a big way. It can destroy our confidence and our self-worth, particularly in the case of perfectionism, since we identify ourselves and base our self-worth off our achievements and our great work ethic. So burnout in and of itself feels like a failure to meet our own standards and a complete inner collapse. It can cause a complete mental shutdown, cause us to disengage, and as I mentioned earlier, can lead to very serious mental health concerns. It can cause us to isolate or withdraw from others or become overly critical of others, which affects our relationships. The effect on our physical body from being in prolonged stress is also very serious. From blood pressure to heart conditions, skin and autoimmune conditions, the effect on our health from perfectionism-induced burnout is immense. Burnout affects our ability to function, do our jobs, and even carry out basic daily tasks. So, point made, burnout sucks. It's not a place we want to be. At the other end of the spectrum, perfectionism withers our will to try. You might be not doing things, not because you're lazy or unmotivated, but because perfectionism is keeping you stagnating. The fear of failing, rejection, or not being perfect is paralyzing, causing you to not put anything at all out there, or avoid feedback and criticism and thereby miss opportunities to grow and advance. Perfectionism causes us to procrastinate and spend forever mulling and planning and hypothesizing on how to make something as perfect as possible and never actually put anything out there. It is the motivation and progress killer. It is the thing that makes you eat the entire block of chocolate rather than just let yourself have one piece, because perfectionism is all or nothing. You figure you're a screw up anyway for having one piece, may as well just screw it up completely, and then you either hammer yourself in the gym the next day to within an inch of your life to work off the damage from last night, or quit the process entirely because you couldn't do it perfectly. And finally, it is the death sentence of creativity, authenticity, and true magic. Creativity thrives on experimentation, mistakes, and unexpected discoveries. But perfectionism demands a flawless result, so we're not willing to take any risks in case it doesn't work out. Authenticity requires us to be connected to our intuition and our instincts and trust ourselves, whereas perfectionism needs us to be constantly self-monitoring and second-guessing ourselves. It can make us shape our work and even our personalities around what we think will be accepted or admired, rather than what is actually natural and true. So we end up creating a performative version of who we are, or curating lives to an impossible standard that no one can connect with. We see this one all the time with influencers online. It makes us over-polish and over-edit until every ounce of originality and spontaneity is ironed out, and what we're left with is something that might be technically correct, might be precise and perfect, but something's missing. You. That magic, that X factor, that unique, special something that each and every one of us has that cannot be trained, replicated, polished, or perfected. It is the thing that jumps out of our work and into people's heart and soul. It is the part of our work that people connect with, the thing that makes people feel seen, acknowledged, that I've been there, or I belong here, or wow, what just happened? It is what makes people inspired by us, connect with us, hire us, and buy from us, and it is fundamental to creating true quality. What is perfect? Entirely without fault or defect. Entirely without fault or defect. I cannot think of anything on God's green earth that is entirely without fault or defect. So does it even exist? Maybe, but it will always evade us because of its subjectivity. Perfect to me will not have the same parameters as perfect to you because we all have slightly differing values. So then it's an illusion, or at least not a very reliable measure of success. In order to work through perfectionism, as always, it begins with bringing awareness to it. How's it showing up for you? Do you maybe resonate with the hamster wheel or the white knuckle grip? Are you spending forever in your head, mulling, hypothesizing, and planning on how to make it perfect, but not trusting yourself to put anything out there? Is your body maybe talking to you and sending you signs that it's not okay? Then we want to identify what's driving it. Is it a limiting belief? You can check out my video on limiting beliefs to get a really simple reframe formula. I won't go into it now for the sake of time, but it's about identifying the limiting belief that might in some way be fueling your perfectionism and reframing it into something that empowers you rather than damages you. Is it a fear of critique, rejection, or failure? Are you trying to perfect so there's no room for any potential critique or feedback? Or to fit in and be accepted or avoid failing? Here's the thing. True quality depends on these things. Without feedback and constructive criticism, without being knocked back and messing it up, we can't learn what works and what doesn't work, and we cannot grow from that. When we're avoiding these things, we're avoiding the very experiences that are going to help us to create the quality that we so desperately crave. Now, I'm not saying to take every person's opinion to heart either. Not all opinions are well-intentioned, and sometimes an opinion is coming from that person's perfectionism, and that's not yours to carry. And particularly when it comes to conflicting pieces of feedback and critique, that can easily send us in a tailspin. It's just about not allowing a fear of criticism to control us by making it mean something negative about us. Feedback is normal. Everyone's going to have a different take on things, so you take what resonates and just leave the rest. And like Brené Brown says, if you haven't been out there getting critiqued, rejected, and failing, then I'm not particularly interested in what you have to say. Again, criticism, getting rejected, failing, it isn't what matters. What matters is if you decide that you are a failure as a result. These things are a part of life and an essential part of growth. So in terms of perfectionism as an avoidance mechanism for critique, rejection, and failing, it's about reframing what those things mean to you. Are you going to make them mean that you're a failure or that you're one step closer to where you want to be? You've gained another learning experience that's going to help you create the quality that you desire. True quality and excellence isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing growth and learning. Speaking of embracing, how about embracing yourself? Your magic, your special something that isn't something that you can get right or perfect, that can only shine through when you are truly, authentically you, the part of you that connects to people and has an impact. That is true quality because it means something. It's not just precise or correct. Let go and let the magic happen. There's nothing wrong with having high standards, but do you really want them to be fueled by fear? Next time you catch yourself striving for perfection, firstly, well done. Being able to bring awareness to something is already a huge step in the right direction already because it allows us to separate the thought process from us, from ourselves, and allows us to be the observer rather than the experiencer and stuck in the mud of the story. Second, ask yourself, am I trying to create something great here, or am I running away from fear? Fear of critique, change, failure, judgment. not being enough. Have high standards. Pursue high quality. Go for it. Go all in. Just watch where it's coming from. Pursue high quality from a place of worth, of knowing that your best is enough, and that every critique, rejection, and failure, while it sucks in the moment, is an opportunity for growth and a step closer to where you want to be. Trust yourself enough to let your instincts and intuition guide you to express truly and authentically. Let go. Take risks. Who knows, maybe that mistake you make ends up being a beautifully spontaneous moment that makes your work special and ends up being something that you decide to keep. If you're micromanaging all your potential mistakes out with your perfectionism, what potential magic might you be missing out on? What opportunities to connect, to impact someone in a meaningful way with your work? Working through perfectionism is not an overnight thing or a quick fix, and that's okay. It's an ongoing process to change habits, and that's what perfectionism could be described as. A very common, albeit harmful, habit. Most of us have perfectionistic tendencies in our lives, even if we wouldn't actively call ourselves a perfectionist. It's just about noticing when these tendencies might be coming up and making a different choice. Release the white knuckle grip, breathe, stop running, hop off the hamster wheel. You are enough, and your best is enough. Create from this place and let the magic happen. Fear is the cheapest seat in the house, and you deserve better than that. Again, if you feel that the perfectionism that you're experiencing could be linked to something deeper, then I strongly recommend seeking the support of a licensed therapist. If that doesn't feel like you, but you'd still really like some support in working through perfectionism, then a coach is a great person to do that with. That is it for this video, my friends. I hope it resonated and I really hope it was helpful. If you have any thoughts on this video, please leave me a comment or feel free to get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this kind of thing and you want to see more videos like this, please consider liking and subscribing, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload from me. If you're here, you're in a safe space. Please know that I believe in you and I believe in your infinite potential to go out into the world and shine. Until next time.